So welcome back. In the last video we'd kind of just got to the stage where we've kind of completed our orthographic views. Things we may still want to add in there would be things like where this reflective material starts. So we could just add some lines across there and then just erase the areas that we don't need. But for now I'm just going to move on to the next step, which is to create the top-down version. Okay, so the starting part is going to be to actually go to the image itself and go to the canvas size, and we're going to change the height of this canvas so we're actually going to extend the canvas so we can actually use some guidelines to get the dimensions correct. So in the canvas size we can actually change our height, we can change our width, and we can actually change which direction it will actually extend the canvas. So if we leave it in the center, it will just extend the canvas height above and below, or we can tell it to extend it above, or we can tell it to extend it below the canvas. So this should be above, and we want to make sure our canvas extension color is going to be white, and we're going to change the height to something like 130. We can crop this down later anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much. You can see there we've extended the canvas to 130. Let's just go back to this one again. I think I want to give it about 140 actually. Undo that and actually make sure I click on the way we're going with this. Okay, so this will give us a nice area where we can work from. So the first thing I want to do is bring some more guides back in, and these should automatically be on snapping. So if we go to view, we can go to snap, which is snap is selected, so it should snap to pixels that we've created. So and snap to those two. So that's going to give us our kind of maximum width of our traffic cone. Next step is to actually look at exactly what this is going to look like from the top view. So we're going to have the most outer perimeter being kind of one of these points here, which I'll just put onto this side point. So this will be our outer perimeter, just like the guides we've created. And then our next step is going to be actually this bit where it goes from the base into the actual cone shape. Okay, but then it narrows again. We can see at these points. And then finally, well not finally, but the top section here. And then finally we've got this inner diameter circle as well. Okay, so these are our kind of points where it will kind of narrow to a peak. And obviously we're going to do an orthographic looking straight down, which means there's no perspective on this. We're just looking down on the image. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is bring a few more guides in. So I can bring a guide in here, because we've already created our one image, so that's just going to be a guide for the rest. And again, I'm probably only going to look at just doing one half. So we've got our next point, which is there, and we've got one on the other side. I am putting guides on both sides, but I'm really only going to be looking at one side really for this. I'll create one directly in the centre as well. Oop. Make sure I don't move my canvas. And then finally one for the final in part. And obviously this has gone a little bit off track here. Just coming in, getting in as close as you feel like you need to, just to make sure the guides are all accurate. The next thing we need to look at again is this shape obviously isn't just a circle, but the first thing we will draw out will be a circle from the very centre of our cone, just to get our kind of final perimeter out there. Then we'll start looking at actually the sort of hexagonal or octagon shapes that we have, octagonal even. So we think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, So just check that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then there'll be 7 sides to this. Okay. So like I said, first of all, we're going to go to our marquee tool. We're going to go to the elliptical marquee tool. And if we hold down Shift and Alt, we should draw out from the very centre. And we're just going to take that out and put it as a rough guide. We're not quite touching the edge there, but we're not going to worry too much about that. Create a new layer. Sometimes you can hold down Control and Alt and it will give you transform tools. If we do Control T, we'll say there's nothing actually in there to transform. So what we need to do is we need to stroke this as a separate layer. So again, go to Stroke, 2 pixel width is fine, and deselect. Ooh. Undo that. Actually stroke within the make sure the foreground colour is black. So you can either click on these little arrows here, or you can just press X and it'll swap around your colours palette. So again, go to Stroke. There we go. Deselect that. Now we can transform. We can actually pull out and snap to that shape. So that we know that is kind of our final area. Just move it a little higher up, just away from the cone. And we know that this is going to be our inner circle. So we could actually create another circle here as our guide. So back to the elliptical marquee tool. Hold down Shift and Control. Try and get it as accurate as possible. You can see we're slightly over anyway, not in the dead centre. Let's create another circle. Let's create another layer for this, so we can control this separately. And again, we'll stroke this individually. Okay, so now I can transform this as well. And what I'm doing as well is I'm holding down Shift. If I don't hold down Shift and I transform, I can skew it all over the place. If I hold down Shift, it constrains my ratio of my circle. And then holding down Alt will actually change that from the very centre. So ideally we need to make sure this is in dead centre. So I'm just going to have to eyeball that for the moment. We could actually bring in some rulers from the top as well, and we could try and actually measure what our distance is in between each one. And again, we could actually move this down. We could make sure we put the Y presuming we get a bit finer control. Never fine enough though. Should really be an area we can actually fill in to put these exactly where we want them, really. Problem is we're probably snapping as well, so just go back to view and just turn on snapping for the moment off. Okay, so we're on 46 there. So we could actually scale this. Can't really move it down too far. We can go to our original one. We can kind of move that in between so we can see kind of equal levels. We're just, again, eyeballing this more than anything. But we know we're between 10 and 46. So that's 36. So obviously we want 18. Wants to be our middle. Which sounds to me wrong. No, sorry, 18 from there. So that's going to be 28. It's going to be our centre, or roughly around that. So that's kind of our central line there. So we can try and make sure this is kind of locked to the centre. Now we can actually go to our translate tool, and we can move this so that crosshair appears in the crosshair there. And that's roughly about as centered as we're going to get it just by eyeballing it really. But it's just better to be accurate. Okay, the next one we're going to do is we're going to do our next ring in, which is going to be the this kind of area here. So I'm going to create a new layer. And back to my marquee tool. And let's just pull that out to there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stroke this layer as well. Just going to do it with a single pixel one though, for this one, because it's an inner ring, and I'm also going to take down the opacity slightly on it, because it's a guide ring for kind of where that kink should be. Just make sure we're in the centre there, which does look like we are in the centre. Okay, so the next one in is going to be the smaller ring. Let's just zoom in on this. You can see that obviously our right hand guide is slightly off. So let's just add another layer. And we stroke this layer. Do this with a 2 pixel. Deselect that, and then our final one, which should be the inner ring. So again, create another layer. And we stroke that layer as well. Again, we'll do this with a single pixel. And we'll just turn the opacity down to 80, and that which we can actually do through our setting there. Okay, so that's a guide sort of from the top of where everything should be. Now obviously we need to look into making this our kind of hexagonal shape. Okay, so just looking online, the actual shape we're looking for, 7-sided, would be a heptagon. Now whether this is actually a heptagon shape, I'm not sure. We could do a bit more research and find out. So this is the heptagon shape. You can look at images for this. Okay, so this is a heptagon. Like I said, whether this is actually the shape, it's what we're going to go with for this particular model. But I will look at heptagon traffic cone just as a quick example. We'll have a look at a hexagon. And we're seeing kind of this one over here as an example. I think this is going to be more accurate. I don't think it's heptagon. Really what we needed to try and find some more examples really. So we'll try and go UK traffic cone, because it does look like a UK traffic cone. And see if we can find anything more specific. We have this one again. So 1, 2, this is actually quite a good image. So we're guessing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. So we're going to go with the 6-sided shape. So we're going to go with an hexagon. It can always be quite difficult to tell the shape. So what we'll do is we'll just type into images, search for hexagon. Then we'll click on search tools. I'm going to go type, and we're going to go line drawing. We can type in large. There's a large shape for a hexagon. And let's actually go to any type. Okay, so we've got this one, which is pretty good. We've got this one here, which is pretty good as well. View image. Let's actually just save that image. And rather than us try to actually draw out the hexagon shape manually, we're going to bring in this hexagon shape. Okay, so we can select this whole image and actually bring it into paste it into our cone area here. We could try and change the blending type to make it transparent. Something like that. Just gets rid of and hides all of the white information. and then we need to try and line this up as best as possible. So again, we'll change the shape, hold down shift and control, and we're going to take this out to kind of the very edges. Now this is a slightly thicker line than I would hope for, but we could actually now use this as a guide and draw over the top of this with our line tool. We've gone slightly out, so let's just go move that across, move it down, and we can now delete our top down view. We might want to think about refining actually this shape here now based on kind of our hexagon shape, really, because this is really not as accurate as we would like now. But again, this is something I'll let you go back and actually work out to do. It's again very simple method. All you're going to be doing is using these same guides, which I can now clear. Clear these guides. You can use these guides again to kind of go, okay, this is the edge. We know this is the edge. We've already got that one. Now this is going to be another edge, and then another edge. So it's actually going to be a lot simpler shape at the front to look at. Okay, so we have those. So let's actually just delete that layer, and let's merge these all together. Okay. And we have the top down. Okay, let's just call it something correct. Traffic cone top. Just select that. Paste this in. Traffic code cone side. Okay, so we have our two separate images. We got this one and we have this one. Okay, now we can actually save these out as our own separate images. So to do that, we'll turn the top traffic cone off, and we're going to click on the crop. Really what is a good idea now is to save this as a different Photoshop file, just to make sure you don't write over your file and accidentally lose any work you may have done, say on the top section. Let's just crop this down. Okay, so we're going to crop this down, and we're going to crop it down to okay, say 100. She doesn't seem to want to let us actually change it. Let's just go back through this. Okay, we're just going to manually bring this down to, let's say 95-ish. In fact, what we'll do is we'll go back and do it a different way. We'll go to canvas size, and we'll say 95 by width of 60. Okay, so that's that one done. We can then go back and go to save, and we can save this as I do tend to like to save as PNGs, and we'll go traffic cone orthographic side. Save. Control shift, we'll go back through our crops. We'll turn off the traffic cone, and we're going to crop this one as well. So I'm just going to go into our crop tool. Click on that, and then just go to canvas size. Again, and we'll do a 60 by 60. Okay, so we have the traffic cone now. Top, and we'll save this as top. And we make sure we go back. Like I say, if you saved a separate version, then it's actually quite easy to alter. Like I say, what you might want to do now is actually And what I should have done really first is I should have actually come in and so I think I might have some issues with this. What I didn't do is I didn't do a central line and actually duplicate it over the top. So really what I needed to do was actually come in and crop half of this off and duplicate it over to make sure I've got an accurate side. So those are things that I will do before I move on to the next stage. Things like you might want to do is actually alter how this front bit goes so it fits in line with these bits. And then we shall move on to the next stage, which is getting these image planes into Maya.